What are effigy mounds? Effigy mounds are sacred sites built by the Ho-chunk. Archaeologists believe that most of the mounds were built during the Late Woodland period, which was between the years 350 to 1300. But they believe some of the oldest ones might have been built as far back as 700 BCE. Effigy mounds are burial sites made of earth that was built up into animals, people, and other shapes. Some of the bird mounds have a wingspan of 600 feet or more. There are many different beliefs about why they were built. The Ho-chunk believed that the effigy mounds were used as places where they wanted to get away and for burial. Some believed that they were built by certain clans to honor their clan animal. Others believe that the animal shape of the mound is meant to be the clan of the person buried in the mound. Still others believe that the animal that they were buried under is the one who led them from this life to the next. Yet another belief is that the mounds marked hunting and gathering territories of different villages. And finally, some people think that the effigy mounds were used for all kinds of ceremonies. Even though everyone doesn't know exactly why they were built, many Indians, even from other tribes, go to visit them. They go to talk to the ancestors. They go to put tobacco down, and then they go to pray. Even I would like to go see the mounds, because I feel spiritually tied to the mounds in many ways I can't explain. I think it's cool that the Ho-chunk people can be traced back to prehistoric times. Even though the mounds are believed to be built by the Ho-chunk, many other tribes go to visit the mounds too. They are visited by the Ojibwe, Kickapoo, Oneida, and the Menominee. Those tribes may have built the mounds too. Archaeologists believe that the Ho-chunks inspired other tribes. Robert Birmingham, a professor at the University of Wisconsin and a former archaeologist, called the mounds a world archaeological wonder. The state of Wisconsin claims 95% of the world's effigy mounds are found inside the state. They believe 80% of the state's effigy mounds have been plowed up or destroyed to make room for farms and buildings. Even the state's capital in Madison was built on dirt that was taken from several mounds in the area. Human remains were found in 90% of the mounds that were already destroyed. Some of the mounds are so old that the bones decomposed. Today, the mounds can be found inside parks. The parks that were actually created to protect the mounds from being destroyed. Mounds can also be found in people's yards and on farms. Not long ago, a mining company wanted to dig up some land to make some money from the minerals in the land. They were stopped because the land they wanted to dig up was located around and under some sacred and historical effigy mounds. All the effigy mounds were protected by laws. The owners of a company called Ready Mix gave thousands of dollars to two Wisconsin lawmakers named Chris Capenga and Robert Brooks. They're both Republicans. The mining company wanted the lawmakers to help them get permits to dig up the effigy mounds. They were joined by another mining company who wanted to destroy the effigy mounds, so they could make a lot of money too. Not long after that, Capenga and Brooks introduced a bill called AB 620 to the Wisconsin legislature. The bill was created to allow companies like Ready Mix to destroy effigy mounds, unless people could prove that there were human remains inside the mounds. I guess if you have a lot of money to spend, you can get some politicians to do anything you want. The problem with that is the effigy mounds would have to be destroyed to prove that our ancestors were buried there. Capenga suggested that GPR, ground-penetrating radar, could be used to look for remains. But many archaeologists said that GPR wouldn't be able to identify if artifacts were bones or not. Since some of the mounds were built around 700 BCE, many bones would have to be so decomposed that they wouldn't show up on the GPR. The archaeologists said the only way to prove for sure that there were people buried under there was to dig them up. So in order to keep the mining companies away, the mounds would have to be destroyed. It was like the mounds were doomed to be destroyed by this bill. The Ho-Chunk nation met with Kapenga to try and convince him to take the bill back, but it didn't do any good. Apparently the money was more important to him, so they decided to organize a rally at the Capitol building in Madison, where they could bring attention to the danger that the Mounds were in. The rally was set for January 12th. The Ho-Chunk Nation also built a website about the fight to save the effigy mounds. They did a lot of interviews for TV and newspapers. A lot of people all around the country started asking about what was happening in Wisconsin. When I heard about all of this, I was very angry. I wanted to throw something across the room. It wasn't fair. I didn't do anything to destroy something that was made by their ancestors. But if they were going to do everything they could to destroy my people's resting places... When my mom asked me if I wanted to go to the rally, I said yes. We made traveling plans with our friend Keely and her son Dylan. We arrived in Madison and joined the rally. We decided to get as close to the front of the crowd as possible. We heard many leaders give speeches about how important the mounds are. We saw a lot of people with cameras and video cameras, but we didn't see anyone else from Winnebago. After the speeches were done, the leaders and the drum group led a march around the Capitol building. While walking around, I looked up and saw people looking at us from the windows. They were dressed in business clothes. I turned my sign towards them and yelled, "They're looking out the windows!" The people around me alerted other people and a chain reaction started. More people turned their signs towards the windows. We kept our signs pointed towards the windows until we had marched all the way around the building. When we completed our circle around the building, people started yelling, "Go inside! Go inside!" I had a mini heart attack because people started flooding into the building. And I thought we could be arrested, and my grandma warned me not to get arrested. Yay me! I looked at my mom for a split second, and we stormed the Capitol. When we got inside, we saw people gathering in the rotunda where the drum group was singing. When that song ended, a woman from the upper-level offices screamed, "Illegal assembly!" People just looked at her and then they started another song. Some of us began dancing around the drum group. One man was dancing in the opposite direction. I later learned that he was doing this to confuse the spirits so nothing bad would happen. After that song was over, cops started arriving. The crowd started chanting, "Whose house? Our house," and "Save the Mounds." The leaders directed the group to the outside where some food was being provided. We decided to head home. On the way out, we saw Clayton Winishek, the hereditary chief of the Ho-Chunk Nation. We had our picture taken with him. He and his family thanked us for making the trip from Nebraska. Many other people saw our signs too and thanked us for coming to help. Just hours after the rally, we stopped for supper and got word that AB 620 was killed. The Wisconsin lawmakers weren't even going to put it up for a vote. We won. I was a part of history in the making. Participating in this event made me feel more powerful mentally and spiritually. I could have learned this in a classroom, but I got to live it. Through all this, I learned about history, science, government, and social studies. I wish more kids could be able to learn this the way I did.